everybody. Welcome to another week, and welcome to, I wouldn't say a chapel time, I would just say a little bit of a short little reflection on Corpus Christi Sunday, which we celebrated in the church on June 14th. And I think this is so fitting because the churches are now opening up. People are starting to be able to actually go to Mass and receive communion, and which is such a blessing. But it's not just like, oh, it's nice, it's nice to be at church with other people. There's a real difference between going just to be in the community and being maybe in the building, as opposed to receiving Jesus in the most holy sacrament. And I just want to share a little bit about that. For me personally, Mass to me, I was taught that it was a mortal sin if you missed. My parents were like, this is important. You should be going. It's an obligation to make it to Mass. I remember reading in a catechism book a long time ago that it says laziness is not love of God. And I was like, oh, okay. And my parents used to pick me up from like Girl Guide camp to get to church. It was so instilled that even if we were going on vacation, I would still get to Mass. We would still find a time. And obviously if something happened and we never, made it because we couldn't find a church, that there was intention there. But most of the time we actually would look ahead and find out, when we're stopping in a certain town, what time is Mass? Can we get there? And so there was never like this thought that, oh, I'm on vacation, so I'm not going to go. It's like, God isn't on vacation in our lives, so why do we, what? Like, this should be an expectation. And so I'm very passionate about this because church to me is kind of like the fuel to our fire, the fuel to allowing us to not stay stagnant, allowing us to grow in our faith, to grow in love with Jesus. But it's not just a building. It's not just this place that you go and you're like, oh, I saw people I knew and I prayed a little bit. It was very nice. No. It's like receiving Jesus. I was listening to a friend of mine on an Instagram post, and she's a very faithful lady, and she talked about how she learned recently that 70% of Catholics don't believe in the true presence or don't really grasp it. It's just, a symbol, or, the bread and the wine is just a symbol of the Last Supper. It's like, oh my goodness, no, it's Jesus. John 6:53 says, so Jesus said to them, truly, truly, I tell you, unless you eat the flesh and drink the blood of the Son of Man, you have no life in you. Whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood has eternal life, and I will raise him up at the last day. For my flesh is real food, and my blood is real drink. I just think this is such a powerful message at the Last Supper when all of his disciples are, sitting around having their Passover meal, and he starts saying things like this. And that's not normal in a Passover meal. And so they're a little confused, I think. But what he's saying is when he leaves, he ends up actually finishing the Passover on the cross. Right before he dies, he says he thirsts, because usually you have to finish a drink of wine before the end of the Passover. And he actually leaves to go pray in the garden before that happens. And so the disciples are very confused. They're like, the Passover never even finished. And then he goes and prays. They fall asleep. The next day he says he thirsts. A soldier sticks a sponge on a spear, puts it in vinegar water, and lifts it up to Jesus on the cross. He drinks it and says it is finished. So he becomes the new sacrifice, a new memorial that we get to celebrate every single Sunday at Mass. There's so many miracles to prove that the Eucharist is a real thing. In Lanciano, Italy, in the 1600s, a priest was doubting whether or not he was actually consecrating the host into Jesus's body. And he started to doubt. He's like, is this actually happening? And then all of a sudden, not just him, but his parishioners saw this bread, this piece of bread and the wine turn into real flesh and real wine. And today you can still go to that chapel and see this miracle. And I mean, the church does not declare something to be a miracle unless it's been like they try to debunk it. They try to get people that are skeptics to come in and try to prove it wrong. Because I remember a long time ago, somebody on the news was like, I saw Jesus in my grilled cheese sandwich. And now you can actually buy toasters that make like images and stuff. But anyways, like they want to make sure that it's legit. And so, yeah, and they did. They even checked it with the heart. The piece of flesh was from a human heart, and the descendant was of someone of the ancestry of someone that was in the Middle East. And I can't remember exactly the details on that, but you could look up Eucharistic miracles and there's tons. That's just one very extreme example. So when we receive Jesus, it is not just something that I take lightly. And that is why going to Mass is so important. This is receiving something that will just like jump you into the next week, will allow you to maybe focus on God a little bit more, maybe be able to just have the strength to overcome something that you've been struggling with. If you miss Mass, technically you're supposed to go to confession before going to communion, because because it was a mortal sin to miss. And so you can go up for a blessing, but that's also something. And I don't think people get taught this, and so anyways, I just think it's so amazing that we have a church that allows us to be able to receive Jesus in such a powerful way that I never ever want to take receiving him for granted. A lot of people, I know right now we can't, we have to receive on the hand, but a lot of people receive by the tongue. I actually used to, funny story about that. My priest told me when I was 10 that my mouth was too small. I had to open up bigger, and I was so embarrassed that I stopped doing it. So, so that was not so great. But my husband and my mom, they still take communion by the tongue if they could. And, because that's so sacred. You don't want pieces of Jesus being stuck on your hand. It's such a sacred thing. So don't ever underestimate what you have in the Catholic faith. It is beautiful and amazing and so powerful that I just pray and hope that you never take that for granted, and just celebrate this week as we just celebrated Corpus Christi Sunday, the fact that we have this beautiful gift given from God for us every single Sunday at Mass. So anyways, have a wonderful day, everybody. Enjoy the sun, and stay tuned for one more chapel time here as we wrap up the year. So have a good day.